So it's quite different when you want to detect the estrus for horses, okay? It's a lot more organized than when you do it with ruminants. And probably, especially for small ruminants, because they're small, the size is more manageable. For these horses, they're large. So we have to have handlers working when you do this teasing. And ideally, you would have two handlers. Okay, that's the better way because the one handling would be really preoccupied trying to restrain the animal. Okay, and would not have that much focus to observe the behavioral signs of the mares in heat. Okay, so that's why for me it's preferable to have two people. And with the farms that I've been to, it's usually a team effort. No, it's not solely being done by one person. Okay, but you have that limitation if your farm is just small. Of course, you have limited manpower, so you will go with just having one handler restraining the animal and at the same time observing the behavioral signs of the mare. Okay, you are given a few options on doing this. Either the stallion, walks in the park where the males, where the mares are parked like this, as you see in the picture. So it's not the other way around. You cannot do the teasing or estrus detection if the mare's head would be the one up in the alley. Okay. So they would already smell. So not necessarily that they have to be face to face with the stallion passing by, stallion or gelding, etc. Or pony, stallion or pony gelding passing by. They can smell the pheromones. So they would already react even if they are not seeing them face to face. No? So the presence, aura, nung stallion, no, or gelding is already enough to elicit the behavioral signs. If the mare is really in true heat, okay, it's really quite obvious if the animal is in heat. No, several signs would be shown. Of course, the best of the best would be the standing heat, but in this type of situation, it's difficult to really see that. No, the standing heat, it's when one mounts the other and then it's not standing, right? It's not flickering or moving to any direction, so that's standing heat. So you would try to observe for the other behavioral signs in this type of situation, okay? And those were mentioned in this handout. Yeah, so you have the winking, the mare is curious, so the ears, as you see here, is going forward rather than back. So if it's going backwards, so the mare is irritated, and then the mare, this is signification that the mare is not really in heat, okay? And they may, have this squatting position, they may urinate. The urination is like squinting. So it's like spray gun, squinting like with a water spray gun. And the winking, when you say it's not winking like what we do with humans when we wink, okay, it's not like that. It's a clitoris, presenting itself. So it's winking. It's showing itself, okay? So it's really quite obvious when the animal is really in heat, okay? And it was also mentioned in this material that you don't do this teasing in a haphazard manner. Like the stallion would just have a quick walk towards where the mares are. So they have to spend quite some time together. So the stallion would be smelling the hind part of the female. And then you have to observe not just by seconds, but for several minutes, right? So it was also stated in the material to really see for not just one, but several of the behavioral signs, okay? So that's doing the teasing and observation of the estrus externally, and then we proceed with the other methods. Okay, so this is just something to show you on how to avoid accidents. Okay, be very sure if you're the one handling or if you're part of the observation team, be away from the way of the mare and the stallion, okay? Because they most likely they are aggressive. No? The stallion would really want to mount the mares already, okay, in heat. So that's why you have to be alert all the time and know how to restrain the animals. And if you're part of the observation team, you should know where your position should be so you will not be in any impediment or hindrance to these two animals. Okay. Okay, clinical features. As I was reading this actually, I'm not very sure if all of you will be able to understand it. Now, you have to go back to your Physio 3 to understand the interplay of the hormones, okay? And reading through the lecture material for the small animals that could give you a guide because we have a very wonderful graph there. Although the cells that were given, and the parabasal, intermediate, and the superficial cornified cells does not apply with the horses. But, typical graphs, no, it's quite similar. And you go over the handout by Dr. Jovi, and he has provided a very good graph there as well. Okay. So first off, you have to have that follicle, the mature follicle, okay, that's the ovulatory follicle being stated here. And that follicle will grow to be a very big size and it will ovulate. So ovulation means the expulsion or release of the egg for fertilization. And the site where that ovulatory follicle was will now be the site of the corpus luteum. And this would be the 3 stages or life stages of the corpus luteum. First, it would be corpus hemorrhagicum. Okay, so it would have blood inside until it becomes more solid to be corpus luteum. Now it becomes yellow. That's why luteum. Yan. Yellow body. And then when it regresses, going towards the end of the the whole astrocyte, it becomes now the corpus albicans, the dead corpus luteum. And so then, as when the corpus albicans fully regresses, that's the upshoot of the development of the follicles. So we have 3 follicles, primary, secondary, and tertiary. And then the next cycle goes on. So for most of the farm animals, we follow a 21-day period, and this would be for the horses, pigs, ruminants, okay, and we have a different one for the cats because they are induced ovulators, and then for the dogs, okay, the bitches, we have that in our lecture manual. So depending on the size, but basically, and there's a breed predilection for Rottweilers and German Shepherds. So they come into heat every 4 to 5 months. But in general, as I would count it, it's every 6 months, okay? So you have variations depending on the size and breed of the animal, okay? So you have different terminologies here, and these synonyms were also presented at the end of the material. So it's easier for you to really follow through reading through this handout. Okay. And figure 28.4 shows you that the mare is not interested. Okay, that's why she's kicking. Okay, she's kicking. So not yet, not today. So try again tomorrow. That's why you have this teasing period for a long time. And when you have a chance to really immerse in an equine farm, the season, the breeding season is really, really busy. And not only when they try to foal, but even during the breeding process. So puyatan yan, no? Starts early in the morning and then another set, happening late in the afternoon. And if you are just working with a small equine farm, then it would be good for you to do the teasing every day. And the more you go near to the estrus, say, then you increase the frequency of the teasing to daily, as opposed to doing it every other day. Okay. And if you are working with a bigger farm and then with lesser manpower, so that limits you to having to doing it to every other day compared to doing it daily. But as I said, the best is to do it daily. And this is the difference when you work with ruminants and equine. In ruminants, okay, I hope you have gone through the materials. It's easy, no? It's I mean, it's not too much detailed, no? For horses, you really have to monitor daily or every other day, not only to the teasing, but also doing the TRP, doing the ultrasound, no? So if you're going to specialize on theriogenology in horses, because we have one, and in our local practice, that's the specialization of Dr. Fritz Ocampo, you have to have an ultrasound, no? So you have to invest on that. And because you really have to be on top of the breeding of each mare, okay? Not as a collective herd, okay? Or group of mares. You have to do the ultrasound, you have to monitor the vulvar conformation, no? As if you can, okay? And then the behavior, because each day of the stage of the estrous cycle presents you different set of physiological changes on the ovary, on the uterus, and on the vaginal and vulval part. Okay. And sometimes, right, I just don't know now, but before, we used to have a teaser, a burikoy, which is a pony, and yeah, an intact pony, okay, if I'm not mistaken, in Medomo Farm, okay, and that's his job, okay. It could be quite frustrating because if he detects these mares that are higher than him, physically higher than him, that he will not be able to serve them properly, even if the mare is already standing, exhibiting the standing hip. Okay, so another way to do the estrus detection, if you have this big area of land or pasture or paddock, okay, so this is how they do it also, figure 28.5. With this one, of course, lesser chance of having some injuries because you are not restricted with your space. But then again, it would be better to have more people involved when doing this. Okay, so one handler for each, and then you have several mares out in the paddock, and you have another person, another person restraining the stallion. Okay, so one handler for each animal. So that's why you will have more manpower if you are going to do this. Okay, so that's why you have multiple options there. And then this one here, figure 28.7. I hope you can see where the pony is. Where the stallion is. Can you see him? Anybody? Can you see him? Where is the stallion in figure 28.7?
Yung nasa right side po ba?
Nasa right side. If you're facing the computer. Ay, hindi, ito na lang. What's the color of the tail?
Yung stallion po ay brown yung tail.
Okay. And this is, yeah, Miss Malapaya, right? So anybody else who has a different answer? Okay, just to save time, so let me orient you with this picture. Actually, it's quite, there are two interpretations. So let me check in the chat box. Brown, brown, brown. Okay, brown. So this is the mare. Okay, this is the mare because this could be the foal. Kasi meron dito, it's in the text here in this that you are teasing a mare with a foal, and that can be also challenging. Okay. because there might be suppression of the estrus because of the presence of the foal, especially if it's still nursing, okay, or still severely attached with the mare, okay? So this could be the mare, this could be the mare because of the foal here, and so this is the stallion, okay? Looking at the pictures, we cannot really see kasi blurred. Okay, we have a blurred area here, so I cannot fully see the scrotum here. Okay, but it seems like there is, no, but I'm not very sure. But what helped me identify would be the presence of the fold here. Okay. So brown yung ano natin. So let me credit one. So it's right side. Okay. So I'll credit Nancy for that. Okay. And then we have here, okay, at the end part, no? So you really have to do the palpation to check the cervix, okay? It's important to really know that. And then you have to do the ultrasound to monitor the endometrial folds and then the endometrial cups, okay? And this would be examples of your ultrasonograms, and this would be a good ultrasonogram of your edema in the endometrial folds. Okay. Ayan. So that's why when you do the ultrasound, you don't only scan one part because there may be parts of the same uterus that would be presented like this, and then some parts that would be presented with this one. Okay, so that's why you have to check all sides, especially during early pregnancy. There may be like, slight enlargement of the uterus only, so some parts may not be filled with the fluid yet. And you can only have like a small part like this one, okay? But with this one, commonly, if it's really non-gravid, most of the parts would be presented like this, which is not enlarged and without devoid of the fluid, okay? Okay, so ayan. So in my experience with scanning, because with what I learned and with what I read, one of the signs that I look into declaring pregnancy of the animal would be the presence of the fluid, okay? But it's not entirely only, it's not entirely only present when the animal is pregnant. So even I have scanned some animals that even when they are just only in estrus, okay, they would show you this. So that's why it's very important to include the presence of the fetus and really detect the heartbeat of the fetus to diagnose that the animal is indeed pregnant, okay? So the presence of the fluid and slight enlargement of the uterus is not enough. Okay. And now we go through here. And as stated in the lecture material, okay, the best is for you to do the palpation and then, okay, external signs observation and then the ultrasound, which are less invasive procedures, okay? With this one, this is not advised, no? So if you can opt not to do this, okay, if you have good data coming from DRP, external signs, observations, and ultrasound, so preferably you will not do the vaginoscopy anymore, okay? And to show you, we also use this for the other large animals, so for cattle and for water buffalo. It will help you really identify if the animal is in heat, true heat, okay? So this is one of the things that we do with the ruminants. That's why it's possible for us to really know when is the truest time to do the AI, okay? And let me show you, okay, before we bought our unit for I think 1,500 and right now that's only 896 from China, okay? And it's operated with a battery like this. So I don't like I don't like this unit anymore because in my experience, especially if you have staff that are quite negligent with their paraphernalia, often you would have rust, no, on this part. Because after using this, you have to clean and disinfect it, right? But you have to dry it up, no, wipe it dry properly so that you do not have any water left out in this area that will damage where you have this type C batteries. And it's hard to come by, no, this type of batteries. That's why I don't like this. Okay, so you have a switch here. You have your two type C batteries here. You screw it in and you open this. There's a light source here. And then it will give you a good view of the cervix inside. Okay, so yan yung ginagamit namin. And if the cervix is already open, okay, that's for ruminants, then that's the truest hip, okay? It's already accepting the semen, okay? You would also have a chance to look into the vulvar conformation, okay? Not only on the cervix. So this is the difference between the horses and the ruminants. So same, no? If it's not really in heat, this is the cervix, okay? And you will just try to observe what you see, try to describe on the vulval wall. Okay, so sometimes you would see some mucus discharge. Okay, so ideally this would be clear. Okay, mucus discharge without any pus, not smelling differently. And if it would have some blood, no, tinge, okay, so that's different, no? For ruminants, they're already in the mid-estrus stage. So that's past the estrus. That's about 1.5 to 2 days after estrus. When you see that, don't waste your time breeding, okay? Because most likely that will not really proceed to pregnancy. Okay, now for horses, still you are presented with the same physicality of the closed cervix. So the cervical folds are strong. And then instead of just having an opening, okay, opening, so it just open like that, no, for ruminants. For horses, it's different, no, it will like fall down. Parang flower, it will wilt. Like a flower, no, it will wilt. So as it becomes, closer to the true estrus day, okay, which is 2 days after ovulation. So you will be presented with a cervix like this one, okay? Here in the Philippines, I have not heard anyone doing AI yet, but that's being done widely in developed countries already. So when we do a natural mating with horses, so even if you're presented with like a wilted, cervix like this, the penis would still be able to penetrate inside. So don't think of it now, would it be a hindrance, a physical hindrance? No. So they will adjust, no, the structures inside will adjust, and then the penis will still be able to expel the spermatozoa inside in the cervix area, uterine body, etc. of the mare, so that the fertilization can push through. Okay. So any
Doc,
questions? Yes.
ayun po. Question lang po. Do we do progesterone testing for estrus detection or pregnancy confirmation in ruminants and horses?
Can you repeat it? Is it being done?
Yes po, Doc. Kung nagpa-progesterone testing po ba tayo?
Not widely being done here and abroad. Kaya sabi ko nga mas straightforward than some breeding. It's a lot easier. Less details, less preparation. Okay, less preparation. So it's being done, but it's not more only for research purposes, or only if you have like special cases, like a very prized mare that you really want to impregnate. So you do the progesterone test, okay? But it's not the usual thing that you do in every breeding season, okay? The usual thing would be the one I have already mentioned, okay? The one that we have discussed. Okay, pero
Okay po, Doc.
with the small animals, more and more breeder. No? Yun ang pang-attract ng mga breeders if they have this machine. So this is not actually only restricted to veterinary clinics, no? So I hope, ideally, okay, it's done by theory genologists, no? Not just breeders, but here in the Philippines, it's also being done by breeders. So they do, because I have clients, no, because I don't have this serum progesterone machine, I do the vaginal cytology for the workup of the breeders of the bitches that I work with. Yun. So some of the breeders would do it instead. Okay. Some clients would rather have the serum progesterone than the vaginal cytology. So what I would do, is to give the option to the owners. Sometimes the animal, especially if a big dog, is not very cooperative and blood collection could be a challenge. So we could just revert to doing the vaginal cytology instead. Okay. And then for easier dogs to work with, and mas accurate yung serum progesterone, no? Because as in the lecture material, if it's really on the day, then you can really have the high serum progesterone of 5.8 and above, okay? And the ones before. So you can really pinpoint the day depending on the level of the serum progesterone detected in your bitch, in your patient. Okay?
Thank you for that.
So let's check the other material here. Okay, ito. Ito yung sa small animals. Yan. So this was the copy I got over the internet. It's not complete, no? But even so, you can already learn a lot from the given pages. Okay, so I'll show you the graph. Ayan, so that's the graph. So very good visual is being given to us here in terms of the presence of the type of cells, of the vaginal cells, okay? And somehow, no, when you see most of the cornified cells already, okay, still you would give a few days more, okay? So not on the day, because at that day, or like on this day, you would still have the 2 to 3 nanograms for the serum progesterone. And the ideal one would be higher than that, no, 5 to 8. So this would be the right time to breed. So it's really different with bitches as compared to the other animals, okay? The interplay of the hormones is almost the same. Like, of course, right when the animal is not pregnant, on this part here, the progesterone level is low and it becomes high, especially when the animal is already is pregnant. Of course, you need the progesterone for the maintenance of the pregnancy. Okay, so you really have to go back with your Physio 3 to really understand and appreciate what we're talking about here in phylogenology. Okay? And then one thing, no, let me get back with the horses. So even if you're done with the breeding, you still proceed with the teasing period up to 1 month to 2 months post-breeding. You know why? Because of the pregnancy loss. Okay? In ruminants, in my experience, I encountered about 15 to 20% pregnancy loss, and we do ultrasound 30 days post-breeding to detect for any pregnant animals. And then we do second ultrasound 60 days post-breeding for those that showed pregnant, to do fetal sexing and at the same time to monitor the pregnancy. And true enough, we have some losses from the 30 days to the 60 days post-breeding. And that is also evident with horses. And it's even higher because it could be up to 30% pregnancy loss. Okay, so this will be discussed more in the other topics, but I'll try to give some information as early as now. So when we say early embryonic death or EED, that is actually loss of the pregnancy when the fetus is still very small, not quite established yet. So that's before 1 month. So mga 2 to 3 weeks post-breeding, the pregnancy will not continue, it will terminate, and then the fetus will just be resorbed. Okay? And that's why when we do the ultrasound 30 days post-breeding, sometimes you would see dead fetus already. Okay? Or remnants of the fetus not fully absorbed yet. Okay? Not fully resorbed. To detect if it's really a dead fetus, of course, you have to look for the fetal heartbeat. And if it's not present, and if you're not sure, you can always go back and scan after 7 days. So 37 days post-breeding to arrive at a more definitive diagnosis of your pregnancy diagnosis. Okay? So that's that. So with horses as well, it's better to scan the second time, which is 60 days post-breeding, to ensure if the animal is continuing with the pregnancy. Because specifically for temperate regions, no, the breeding season comes and then doesn't come quite often. No, only twice a year. No, only when we have this equinox. No, and September 23, that's tomorrow, would be the second one. Yan yung autumnal autumnal season of the horses. So it doesn't come around that much. That's why if you have pregnancy loss, you really have to catch up, no, with the breeding season. So in terms of foaling, it may be the foal may be registered a little bit late. So that's why when you try to raise it, no, dun medyo may magkakaiba in terms of aging. So if the foal is already more than the registered time for raising, even if it's physically, it's about like 1.5 years old already, but by papers, it's just 1 year old, no? So that's the variation that you will see when you have this type of pregnancy losses. So consequences, no, of these pregnancy losses that you're still trying to catch up within the same breeding period. Okay? So when I'm being called upon to do ultrasound and then vaginal cytology with the kennels I work with, no, the first that I do for vaginal cytology is to do the vaginoscopic examination, okay? And I take note of the texture, now the physical appearance or presence of any discharge, no, coming from the beach. Okay, and that's also being discussed here. And the one I use for the vaginoscope, no, ayan, so first I'm presented with this one, okay, and then sometimes you are presented with the quite, and then folds of the beach already in estrus like this one, okay. The vaginoscope I use is the one being used for humans, no? So at least you have a cheaper source, and you can also buy that online, or if you're near a pharmacy, they have a disposable one, and that's only like 20 to 25 pesos. So it's very affordable, no? Even for you who would want to venture right away into having your own practice. And the stainless steel, okay, vaginoscope is also now available online. You can buy it for like 250, okay, about 250. The one that's for humans, okay, that's for humans. And then we also have another one for sheep that is quite larger, quite longer, okay, quite longer. And then we have the one for cattle as well. That's about 800 pesos, okay? Okay, that's all, of course, very large. And you can also use that for the horses, okay? That's what I like about all these online platforms. Everything else that was really expensive before is a lot cheaper now. And so, it's affordable. Do you have any questions? Okay, so medyo dito na siya naputol. Ayan, so medyo dito na siya naputol. And the one I'm using for my vaginal cytology is actually just our Hemaquick or DiffQuick. Okay, and I will not discuss more of this because it is part of your parang discussion of report. May report yan later on dun sa. So doon na lang natin siya mas pag-usapan pa. Okay, but for small animals, a little bit straightforward yung detection in terms of physical reception. Okay, reception to the male. Okay, I will not discuss the breeding management anymore because our topic is only about estrus detection. Okay, so only up to here, doing the vaginal cytology. Okay, so you really have to memorize the interplay of the hormones so that you would have a proper advice. You would give a proper advice to the breeders as to when to really join the bitch to the male dog. Okay, may tanong pa po before we proceed to the last part. Okay, we only have 1 minute na lang. Okay, so you have a summary here already. So this is a new handout posted this morning coming from Doc Jovi. Ayan, this is a good summary now. And he said pala, by the way, he said we really have to study this because he will get questions from this for your quiz. Okay, for the quiz. It's easier, you see here, it's easier to do the breeding for cattle, for ruminants, large ruminants because they're polyestrous. You have a little more challenge with the water buffaloes because they are silent eaters. That's why it's more difficult to impregnate them than the cattle. Okay? But in terms of ano ba yun, yung all the other aspects, medyo the same naman with the water buffaloes. Tricky lang talaga yung estrus detection sa kanila. That's why you may opt or you may need to use the heat detection aids. We have several. Now we have the paint at the base of the tail. We can also use a teaser, no, but that's not quite famous. Some of the farms would have their own bulls, so that's also easier. For the goats and the sheep, it becomes a challenge if you are in a temperate country. But here in the Philippines, we also have just a 21-day cycle as well, same as with the cattle. Okay. Mas mahirap lang ang sheep compared sa goat. So yung goats, quite similar so with the cattle, also polyestrous. But with the sheep, even if the tropical country, may konting affected talaga sila with the season or with the number of lengths of day. Okay, lengths of day. So the sheep is quite similar to that of the horses. Okay, and that's the reason why we have the seasons here in terms of breeding and the racing as well. So that's all interconnected. Okay, for the swine, same as cattle, almost every 21 days, so it's very easy to breed swine. Even doing AI, okay? Even doing AI. Okay, so I will not proceed because we don't have much time anymore. So this is just basically meeting you to have a summary and to explain or expound some of the concepts that we have for this topic.